The prince who didn't die at the Trident. What if Rhaegar Targaryen did not die at the Trident? What if Robert's warhammer crashed into the rubies on his breastplate, sent him spiraling from the saddle, and the prince rose again instead of sinking beneath the river the water is colden? Red around him as Rhaegar's eyes snap open, he tastes blood in his mouth. His armor is split from that terrible strike, but his ribs hold. Somehow he does not die, he does not drift slowly down into the Trident to be remembered as a corpse and a crown of rubies. He claws for air. Instead he hears steel ringing and men screaming above as Robert Baratheon roars for his head. In truth, this is the breath that breaks the story we know. This is the single heartbeat where everything bends because Rhaegar lives, whether by victory on the riverbank, survival in defeat, or a last-second intervention that drags him from the water and chains him instead of drowning him. We are going to stay with that breath. We are going to follow it as it tears through every hall and war camp in Westeros. Robert never gets the clean vengeance he dreamed of. There is no dead prince to curse, no silent body to blame for Lyanna Stark's fate, and far away in a bed that should have been her grave, Lyanna still has breath enough to speak. She can stand in a throne room instead of bleeding out on cold stone, and when she does, the room goes silent, because the story of the kidnapped wolf maid and the dragon prince is not what Robert swore it was. This does not need to end in blood. Rhaegar once told his closest knights that he would set things right, that he would return from the Trident and deal with the Mad King and his wildfire. Now he has to prove it. With a broken chest plate and a realm that wants his head, he must ride back towards King's Landing or be dragged there in chains. He must face Tywin Lannister at the gates with smoke rising over the city and decide whether to save his father or his kingdom, in this timeline the most hated prince. The realm might be its last best hope, the only man who has heard prophecies of a song of ice and fire, the only one who will listen when old maesters whisper of dead things in the north. If this continues unchecked, there will be no throne left to fight for, only snow and silent graves, and a very different Jon Snow whose name and claim are decided not in secrecy but in the sight of lords and swords. In this video we will drop straight into that altered Trident. We will watch the water close, then open again around a living Rhaegar. We will follow the political and personal fallout as Robert bleeds but does not win, as Ned Stark is forced to choose between his king and his sister's truth, as houses Baratheon, Lannister, Stark and Martell all rewrite their oaths around a prince who refuses to stay dead. We will track who lives and who dies. Differently, we will see Rhaegar stand in armor before Tywin, instead of rotting at the bottom of a river. We will hear Lyanna speak in a crowded hall. We will look at a Jon Snow who might be raised as heir, not bastard. And we will end by asking whether this world is better for Rhaegar's survival, or far, far worse. Robert's roar splits the air. Rhaegar! The name crashes over the field louder than the war horns as his great warhammer rises, as rubies flash upon black armor like drops of frozen blood, as the green waters of the Trident churn slowly to a darker red beneath the horses' pounding hooves. Every man watching knows this is the moment the realm will remember, the heartbeat where a king is made and a prince is ended. Robert leans in the saddle, eyes wild, breath ragged, the hammer already swinging in a brutal arc meant to cave in steel and bone. Rhaegar answers with silence. His silver hair spills from beneath his dark helm, his sword points steady, his knees tight to his destrier as he drives forward as if the river itself has narrowed to this single charge. They meet. In truth, the first impact is not steel on flesh but breastplate on breastplate, two armored bodies slamming together with enough force to stagger both mounts. The warhammer comes down a heartbeat late, glancing off a dented plate instead of crushing it, the head skidding along the black steel with a shriek. The blow still lands hard. Rhaegar feels his ribs crack, feels fire lance through his side, but the armor does not split, the chest does not cave. Both horses rear, both riders fall. They hit the Trident in an explosion of water and mud. Rhaegar's world goes dark and green at once, the river swallowing the sound of battle, turning the screams above into muffled echoes. His sword tumbles from his hand. The weight of his armor drags him down, twisting him, grinding broken ribs with every slow roll along the riverbed. Above, the chaos erupts. Men see the splash and not the truth. "The prince is dead," someone screams, voice cracking. "No, he's moving," another shouts as the current spits up a black armored shape. Banners crash together, Baratheon stags slamming into Targaryen dragons, knights hacking, shields splintering, the tridents crossing becoming a single churning room of steel and blood. The rubies still fly. Robert's glancing strike has torn them free, scattering them in a crimson arc that sprays across the shallows. Men lunge into the water for them, hands clawing at the stones even as bodies sink beside them. To most eyes it looks the same as the songs will claim, but beneath the surface, the prince is not yet a corpse. Rhaegar's lungs burn. For a moment he almost lets it happen, almost lets the river close over him and carry his failures away. This does not need to end in blood. A quieter part of him whispers, the part that once held a harp instead of a sword. Yet he sees Elya's face, Lyanna's eyes, a shadowed throne with wildfire in its walls, and something in him refuses to die. He rips at his own helm with numb fingers. The straps fight him, then snap. The metal tears free and vanishes into the dark. Lighter now, he kicks, claws, forces his broken body upward until at last he breaks the surface, coughing, dragging in a ragged breath that tastes of mud and iron. On the opposite bank, Robert is on his knees in the shallows, one leg trapped beneath his fallen horse, armor torn, face a mask of blood. Men are around him in a frantic knot, hauling at the dead animal, dragging their lord back inch by inch. Robert lifts his head, wipes water from his eyes, and freezes as he sees movement in the river. Their gazes lock. For a long, suspended instant, the battlefield falls silent for them alone, as if the room goes silent though there are no walls, only water and war, and the weight of a kingdom hanging between two men who should already be dead. Then time crashes back. "Get him back!" a Stormland knight bellows, seizing Robert under the arms. "The king!" someone shouts, naming him before the crown is truly his. They drag him away from the bank, shields rising in a ragged wall as arrows begin to fall. On the Targaryen side, white cloaks plunge into the shallows. Sir Arthur Dayne is not there, but others are, faceless in the blur of pain. Gauntlets grip Rhaegar's pauldrons, boots dig into the mud, and slowly, stubbornly, they haul their prince from the Trident's grasp. He collapses on the stones, coughing up water and blood, feeling every broken rib with each shuddering breath. A Kingsguard helm looms over him, eyes hard behind the visor. "My prince," the knight rasps, voice shaking with something like disbelief. "You live." On the far bank, Robert Baratheon staggers to his feet. Warhammer reclaimed. Men rallying around him, seeing their enemy rise where a corpse should be. If this continues, the songs of the Trident will be lies before they are even written. Both sides hesitate. Both see their champion not fallen but merely wounded, not martyr or monster, but man. The battle is not decided, the realm is not yet lost or won. And as Rhaegar forces himself upright, as Robert lifts his hammer once more, every lord watching understands a darker truth. The fate of Westeros has just slipped its script. What happens next will not be what any of them came here to kill for. Rhaegar sways in the shallows, breath ragged, blood seeping through the broken plates of his breastplate as the river slowly turns pink around him. Men are shouting, horns are blaring, but for a heartbeat it feels as if the world itself holds its breath to see which way this prince will fall. Loyal knights splash toward him, hands grabbing at his arms, begging him to mount, to flee, to ride for King's Landing and regroup under the king he still calls father. They speak of Aerys' commands, of wildfire, of turning this defeat into a final, terrible strike that will burn Robert's rebellion out of the world. If this continues, they swear, mercy will be weakness and hesitation will mean the end of House Targaryen. Rhaegar hears them. He does not obey. He shrugs off gauntleted hands and staggers up the riverbank, half-armored, rubies gone from his breast, dark hair plastered to his face. His eyes are clear. Too clear. He looks not at his own men, but across the Trident, to where Robert Baratheon is carving a path back toward him. warhammer slick with blood and river water. Rhaegar's banner still flies above the chaos, the three-headed dragon snapping in the wind. "Lower it," he orders, voice hoarse but steady. For a moment the field feels like the throne room after a killing blow. The air itself tightens. The standard dips, then slowly sinks, red on black folding into the mud as the room goes silent in every man's mind, as if they all stand indoors watching the king fall. Rhaegar raises his sword, not to strike, but to signal. A white cloak rides hard to Robert under a hastily raised flag of truce, shouting himself hoarse that the prince demands parley. No one believes it, no one understands it. Yet both lines by inches begin to still. When Rhaegar rides out, he does so unhelmed, face bare, hair unbound, every bruise and cut on display. He looks nothing like the shining monster from Robert's nightmares. No perfect rubies to shatter now, only a man who knows he should already be dead and walks forward anyway. Robert meets him halfway, snorting Destrier tossing its head. Warhammer still in his fist. Fury rolls off him in waves, his eyes never leave Rhaegar's throat. He demands single combat, demands an ending written in blood and shattered bone. Rhaegar refuses the script. In truth, he says, this does not need to end in blood. He speaks quickly, each word a risk. He will renounce Aerys's command. He will name his own father unfit to be king before every lord of the realm. He will call for a great council to choose who should rule, prince or rebel or someone else entirely, if Robert will only stay his hand for one more day. Then he drops the deeper blade. He hints at Lyanna. Not a kidnapping, not a rape. A choice, a promise. He does not name the tower or the bed of blood, but he lets Robert hear enough. There is a child, an innocent heir bound to both ice and fire, and if Robert kills him now, that life may be forfeit, and with it the realm's best chance at peace. Robert's knuckles whiten on the haft of his hammer. His men scream for him to strike, to ignore the prince's silver tongue. They remember Brandon strangled, Rickard burned, Elia and her children rumored dead. They do not care about councils or prophecies. Rhaegar hears them too. He does the only thing left. He slowly sinks to one knee in the mud between the two armies, sword held out not in craven surrender to Aerys, but like an oath laid bare. He swears with the river as witness that if he rises from this ground alive, he will never rule as his father ruled. Robert raises the hammer high, caught between vengeance and the thin, impossible path Rhaegar has opened. The next heartbeat will decide whether Westeros gets a butchered prince or a broken one who might dare to change everything. The hammer does not fall. Robert's arms tremble, the weight of steel and blood dragging at his shoulders, and for a heartbeat the world is only his ragged breath and Rhaegar's slow, stubborn heartbeat in the mud. Then Jon Arryn's hand closes around the haft, steady but unyielding. "Robert," he says quietly, "the battle is won. The war is not." Around them, a hastily raised command tent flaps in the river wind. The Trident runs red outside. Inside, the room goes silent as the lords of a broken realm face the prince who should already be dead. Robert, Ned, Jon Arryn, and Hoster Tully stand on one side of a rough table. Opposite, Rhaegar sits on a camp stool, armor dented, face pale, Barristan Selmy at his shoulder with his sword sheathed but his eyes sharp. Two other knights of the Kingsguard bruised and bandaged behind him. Robert slams the warhammer down on the table so hard the cups jump. There's nothing to talk about. He dies. The line ends. That is how this ends. Ned's gaze does not leave Rhaegar's face. "You heard him denounce Aerys," he answers, voice low. "You heard his terms on the field." Robert rounds on him. "He stole your sister." The words strike like blows. He burned Brandon and Rickard as sure as his mad king of a father. You would argue law for him? Jon Arryn steps between them before this continues and tears the fragile victory apart. "In truth, that is exactly what we must argue," he says. You have raised banners in rebellion against a king who burned his own lords alive. Now his heir kneels in the mud, casts him aside and offers peace. Slaughter him now, and what are you? Not liberators. Usurpers who killed a prince under truce. Hoster Tully slowly nods, fingers drumming. The Riverlands bled for you, Robert. They will bleed again if half the realm decides you murdered their beloved prince when he reached for a different sword. All eyes return to Rhaegar. He forces himself to stand. His breath is shallow, but his voice is steady. I will not return to King's Landing as my father's obedient son, he says. Name me regent in waiting. I will ride ahead with my knights, convene a great council in the capital, and lay Aerys before the law of the realm. Let the lords judge their kin. Jon's expression tightens. And what of these men who followed you? What of the North and the Stormlands? Rhaegar answers at once. Amnesty sworn in the Great Sept. No lord here will be named traitor for this rebellion. I will take hostages if you wish. Stark, Arryn, Baratheon heirs in the capital, mine in your keeping. Until the realm is steady. Robert laughs, harsh and disbelieving. You speak of oaths and councils as if songs will hide what you did. The realm saw a prince ride off with a maid promised to another. They saw my betrothed vanish. You want me to spare you and look weak. Ned's voice cuts through. Then show me she is dead or alive. His hand curls on the table. No pact stands without Lyanna. If she lives, she comes to us unharmed. If there is a child, the babe is protected. Named, fostered, hidden, I care not. Only that the blood of my sister does not pay for your prophecy. The tent feels smaller, the air thick. Rhaegar meets Ned Stark's eyes and does not look away. You shall have her, he says. You have my word, before gods and men. The room goes silent again. Jon Arryn seizes the stillness. Here is the line, he says. Rhaegar rides to King's Landing with what men remain loyal to him. He must remove Aerys, by law if the council will bear it, by sword if the king resists. He must present Lyanna Stark alive and under his protection. In return, Robert stays his hand. Robert stares at the prince across the table, jaw clenched, knuckles white on the hammer's haft. You have days, he growls at last. Ride ahead. Tear your father from that throne. Bring me Lyanna breathing. Fail, and I march on your city, and there will be no mercy for dragon or crown. Rhaegar inclines his head, a broken prince accepting a sentence that is not quite death. Outside, the Trident runs on, uncaring as the future of Westeros hangs on a fragile pact and one desperate ride toward a mad king who does not yet know he has been condemned. And if this fragile plan shatters in the streets of King's Landing, the next strike will not be words around a table, but steel in the dark, wildfire under the city, and a final choice between saving a realm or burning it with its dragons. Rhaegar rides like a man chased by his own prophecy. The Trident spray is still on his armor when he and Sir Barristan turn their horses south, hooves striking hard against the King's Road as if speed alone can rewrite law. Can a prince unmake a king? Barristan's voice is low, almost swallowed by the wind. His eyes stay forward, knight's discipline warring with the memory of a throne room full of wildfire whispers. Not by sword alone, not in truth. Rhaegar does not slow. The realm has chosen before. The Great Council of 233. They weighed claims, set aside princes, named a king for the peace of Westeros. Blood did not rule that day. The lords did. Pierced, he lays it out between harsh breaths. Summon the great lords to King's Landing, force Aerys to face sworn testimony of pyromancers, ledgers of wildfire caches beneath septs and streets, accounts of Rickard and Brandon Stark burning while the court watched. No secret murders in the dark, no usurpation in a silent hall. He will name it lawful regency, not treason. A son shielding the realm from a king who has become a weapon pointed inward. This does not need to end in blood, he says, but even Barristan hears the lie under the hope. If this continues, steel will answer parchment. Miles away in Robert's camp, the air is thick with smoke and argument. Stannis stands over a rough map, jaw clenched, eyes hard as he stares at the carved lion of Casterly Rock. A Targaryen prince speaks of law now. Their line is soaked in fire and lies. He will turn on his father, then on us. Jon Arryn's reply is slow, measured, cutting through the tent like a careful sword stroke. Or we let the Mad King keep his crown and watch King's Landing burn. A great council chose Egg over Aerion Brightflame to spare the realm a monster. This is not without precedent. Ned listens, silent, fingers digging into the table's edge as if it were a hilt. Rhaegar's name tastes of Lyanna's blood and blue winter roses. Justice demands a head on a spike. Prudence whispers of a prince who might end the war without a sack, without children screaming in the streets. He remembers his father's screams in the throne room, the smell of cooked flesh, and wonders which Targaryen lie will come next. Then the real question hits them all. Tywin, the Lord of Casterly Rock, has not yet moved. His swords wait, his gold waits, his eyes wait. Both men know it. Rhaegar plans to reach the city before any Lannister banner appears on the horizon, to bind Tywin with oaths, hostages and honors before the lion can smell weakness. Robert, pacing like a caged storm, knows another truth. If Tywin rides under his stag, Rhaegar's legal coup becomes kinslaying and rebellion in every maester's book. Ravens burst into the sky from both camps, black wings beating faster than horses. Rumors outrun them. A prince turning on his father, a rebel offered peace, a great council reborn in the shadow of dragonfire. In keeps and halls from Winterfell to Sunspear, the room goes silent as each lord weighs two futures. Will they bend the knee to a son who deposes his own king, or to the hammer that might crush that king's skull? And when the first Lannister banner finally appears on the horizon of this war, which story of law will Westeros choose to believe? The lords are still arguing when the world lurches forward. Weeks pass in heartbeats. Rhaegar rides through the Dragon Gate at dawn, armor dented from the Trident, cloak torn, eyes hollow from the cost of a victory that feels too much like defeat. King's Landing stinks of fear and smoke. The streets are thin with people and thinner with bread. On the walls, the gold cloaks watch him ride by, uncertain which dragon they serve. He does not go to the throne room first. He goes down into the bowels of the Red Keep, where wildfire waits in silent jars, where Aerys has had pyromancers whispering to green fire and to his own poisoned thoughts. Rhaegar walks those tunnels with Barristan at his shoulder, sword bare, every breath slow and controlled as they count the caches and the men guarding them. Aerys is waiting higher up, pacing before the Iron Throne like a caged thing. His nails are bloody, his beard is wild. When Rhaegar enters, the room goes silent save for the scrape of the king's feet on the stone. "You took your time," Aerys hisses. "Did you bring me Robert's head?" Rhaegar does not kneel. "Robert's broken," he answers, voice low. "The Trident is ours. The realm can still be saved. But not if this continues." His eyes flick to the Kingsguard, to Jaime shifting uneasily by the steps, to Varys in the shadows watching. He moves quickly. Orders flow like sword strokes. The city watch is placed under Barristan's temporary command. Loyal captains are dragged from their beds, others quietly arrested before dawn. The pyromancers are confined, their keys taken. Ravens fly north and west, carrying one clear message to Robert and Ned. The wildfire is contained, the king is not. So when the shout comes from the yard that Lord Tywin Lannister has arrived with a full host and banners flying, it is not a mad king who hears it first. It is Rhaegar, standing on the steps of the Iron Throne, crown still stained with Trident blood. Varys glides closer. "Your Grace, the lion has waited until the last moment." In truth, that is not the habit of a loyal friend. Pycelle wheezes, beard trembling. His Grace Tywin served your father faithfully for 20 years. He brings salvation, not siege. Barristan's hand rests on his sword. If you open the gates and you are wrong, Prince, this city will drown in blood. Outside, the roar of the small folk rises, not in praise but in hunger. They chant for bread, not dragons, a low, ragged sound that cuts through the high stone room more sharply than any strike. Rhaegar looks from one face to the next. This is the moment his father never had the courage to face. Then we do not meet him in shadows, he says. We meet him in the light. He gives the order. The gates will open. The gold cloaks line the streets in tight ranks. The Kingsguard take the walls, and more ravens are loosed, naming the hour, the turns, the witnesses. This does not need to end in blood, he tells Barristan quietly. But if it does, the realm will know who drew first sword. When Tywin Lannister finally rides through the gate, red and gold washing into the starving city, he looks up expecting a mad king to topple. Instead, he finds a wounded, unbowed prince on the walls, cloak snapping in the wind, eyes clear and watching. And for the first time in years, Tywin realizes his carefully timed treachery may have come one move too late, because now he is the one being watched by the city, by the ravens, by history itself. Tywin enters the city expecting fire. Instead, he finds the fires already caged. The great doors of the throne room groan open. Lannister men in red cloaks file in, boots striking the stone in a steady drum, and at their head walks Tywin in full warplate. Lion helm tucked beneath one arm, gold and steel catching every torch as if the room itself should kneel to him. Jaime paces at his side, hand on his sword, a knight ready to strike at a single word. But there is no mad king on the Iron Throne. Aerys is gone, dragged screaming to Maegor's holdfast, locked away under guard. Instead, Rhaegar sits not on the throne but on the steps below it, pale from his wounds yet upright, dark hair loose around his face, eyes clear and fixed on the man who has finally come. Around him the Kingsguard stand, white cloaks still, the room silent save for the slow crackle of torches and the faint controlled breath of armed men holding themselves back. Lord Tywin, Rhaegar says, rising slowly but not reaching for a sword, this does not need to end in blood. He gestures, and a servant appears almost from nowhere with wine and a plain wooden chair set not far from the steps. No wildfire caches, no pyromancers, no shrieking orders for heads. Only a prince offering a seat. The room goes silent in a different way as Tywin stops to take this in. In truth, this is not the chaos he planned to ride. This is order. This is judgment. Tywin does not sit at once. His eyes move from Rhaegar to Jaime, to the white cloaks, to the closed side doors where he knows Aerys is not coming. You have set your father aside, he says at last, yet you do not sit the throne. Bah, I will not claim what the realm has not granted, Rhaegar answers. A great council will judge my right, my father's fitness, and the war's end. I ask the Westerlands to stand with law, not with madness. Tywin's gaze sharpens. And my house, my name. If this continues, if I turn my swords from sacking this city at your word, will you protect the Lannisters when Robert howls for vengeance? Rhaegar does not look away. How do you wish to be remembered, my lord? As the man who saved the realm from wildfire and slaughter, or as the butcher of children in a burning capital? The words hang heavy. Everyone in the room knows Tywin's reputation, knows what he did during the last war by doing nothing. Then Rhaegar lays out the terms, like weapons between them. Jaime will remain in the Kingsguard, his white cloak unstained by kinslaying, his honor intact. Aegon will be betrothed to Cersei, not to some distant princess, binding lion and dragon at the heart of the realm. The Westerlands will have favorable trade and royal favor, their mines protected, their ships welcomed in every port. In return, Tywin must swear before the Great Council, must renounce any sack, must keep his men's hands from the innocent and their swords from the vaults and nurseries of King's Landing. Tywin listens, stone-faced, but something cold and calculating turns behind his eyes. He measures each promise against each risk, weighs Robert's fury against Rhaegar's resolve, the blood already spilled against the profit still to be made. Finally, he moves. The Lord of Castle Rock steps forward, removes his glove, and goes to one knee on the red carpet below the steps. To any watching, it is submission. But Rhaegar sees the truth in his eyes. This is an investment. The Lion will back the dragon's regency. For now. And if the winds shift again, Tywin Lannister will be ready to strike first. And far away, on a bed of blood and blue winter roses, another promise waits to upend every bargain just made. Ravens fly before the blood can dry. By Rhaegar's order, they burst from the rookery in black waves, beating against the dawn over King's Landing, over the charred ruins of the Trident's dead, over camps that still smell of sweat and steel. Each scroll bears the same cold words in a prince's careful hand. The lords of the Seven Kingdoms are summoned to King's Landing to sit in judgment over Rhaegar Targaryen and to decide the fate of the Iron Throne itself. This does not need to end in blood. That is the promise written between every line. A great council, not another field of corpses. A hall, not a river. Yet as the ravens fan out, as wax seals break and eyes move slowly across the script, the realm feels the edge of a sword at its throat. In the eyrie, Jon Arryn reads the summons twice. The old knight's hands are steady, but his breath is not. He has buried too many foster sons in his mind already. A council offers rules, witnesses, precedent. It offers a way to strip a mad king without burning a city. In truth, it is the chance he prayed for when he first raised his banners, a chance to end this before the Vale's bright young falcons fall from the sky. He sends word that House Targaryen will attend, and that the Vale will abide by the judgment of the realm. Far to the north, the message reaches Winterfell like a ghost. Rhaegar Stark is dead. Brandon Stark is dead. Their screams under Aerys's fire are not erased by ink. Ned reads Rhaegar's careful words, hears the promise of law and order, and feels only the weight of an empty godswood. Can any council balance that ledger? Can votes and speeches answer for a father strangled and a brother roasted while a kin watched with shining eyes? If this continues, he knows the North will march again. But for now he waits, measuring duty against grief, justice against the lives he might still save. South of the Trident, Robert Baratheon does not disband. His warriors linger in a restless sea of tents, swords oiled, shields stacked, drums silent but ready. The raven sits in his hand like a challenge. Rhaegar offers a council, talks of judgment, hints that Lyanna will be produced, that Aerys will be set aside by law. Robert paces his command tent, jaw clenched, knuckles white around his warhammer. Is this mercy or another dragon trick? He orders the banners to hold where they are, close enough to strike if the prince fails, far enough to claim he came in peace. In Sunspear, the Martells receive the summons like a slap. Elya's blood is still drying on the stories of the Trident, her frailty whispered in every corner of the court. To think their princess might be set aside, her children nudged from the line of succession while the realm applauds Rhaegar's wisdom makes Doran's hands curl on the arms of his chair. Yet a lawful council is a weapon Aerys never allowed them. In that chamber, with the world watching, Dorne can demand oaths, hostages, guarantees that Elya and her children are not quietly erased, so the ravens fly back with answers. Aerys paces in his dark room, muttering of wildfire. Rhaegar stands in the throne room he does not yet dare to claim, watching the doors, feeling the realm's breath catch. The great council is coming. For Aerys it is a stay of execution. For Rhaegar, a test of whether the realm will accept a dragon in chains. For Robert, a pause before the next strike. And for the Targaryen dynasty, it is the most dangerous battlefield of all. A hall full of enemies forced to speak politely until someone decides words are no longer enough. Far from the Red Keep's crowded halls, another set of doors waits to be opened. Ned rides south beneath a hard blue sky, the wind sharp against his face, the dust of the Dornish marches clinging to his cloak. He has only a handful of men with him, chosen and trusted, their swords worn from war but clean of pointless slaughter. Rhaegar's seal is in his saddlebag, the wax unbroken, the weight of it somehow heavier than any steel. In truth, this quiet mission may decide more than any charge on any battlefield. The Tower of Joy rises from the rocks like a pale spear. No banners fly, no sound carries. As they approach, 3 white shadows step from the gate, cloaks bright, armor bright, eyes hard. Sir Arthur Dayne, Sir Geralt Hightower, Sir Oswell Went. Ned feels his breath catch, his hand drifting slowly toward his sword, because he remembers how this was meant to end, how it ended in another world, in blood and dust and dying men. Lord Stark, Dayne calls, Dawn resting easy in his grip. You cannot enter. Ned reins in. The air between them feels like a throne room before the first accusation, tight and waiting. I have the prince's command. His voice does not shake. He draws out the letter, the dragon seal unbroken, and holds it up so they all can see. This does not need to end in blood. For a heartbeat, the world is silent. Then Dayne steps forward, takes the letter, breaks the seal. His eyes move quickly, knight's discipline warring with something more human in the lines of his face. The room goes silent in Ned's head as he watches, as every memory of Rhaegar on the Trident, every dead friend, every promise to Lyanna presses down on him. At last, Dayne exhales. The prince names you her protector, her witness. His sword lowers. Hightowers follows. No heroic last stands. No doomed charge. Just 3 Kingsguard choosing duty to the living over a dream of a dead king. Inside, the tower smells of stone, stale rushes and milk. Lyanna Stark lies propped against pillows, pale but not drowning in blood, dark hair spread around her like a storm cloud. In her arms, a swaddled, dark-haired infant stirs, tiny fist pressing weakly against her breast. Ned stops as if struck. Lyanna, he manages. She smiles, tired but clear. No fevered whisper, no last breath. You took your time, brother. Her eyes flicked to the child. Meet my son. Ned moves closer, each step an effort. Robert's son, he says, because the words are a shield he has carried for a year, and if this continues, he is not sure who he will be when it is done. Her gaze hardens. No, my husband's. Rhaegar's. She swallows, but her voice does not break. We were wed in secret under Valyrian rites. This boy is no bastard. He is Aegon, or Jon, if you like the sound better. But he is legitimate, Ned. Before gods and men, the world tilts. All the quiet hatred Ned has nursed, all the images of a prince as a thief and a rapist, collide with Lyanna's calm certainty. You chose this, he says slowly, as if naming a crime. I did. There is stark iron in her now. Robert would never have heard it. He wanted a story with a stolen maiden and a monster prince. He wanted blood, not truth. The war was built on that lie. Now we have to pull it down, stone by stone, in front of the whole realm. He thinks of Robert's warhammer, of Rhaegar's bruised face in the council chamber, of Stannis weighing law like a sword in his hand. They will not accept it, Ned whispers. Not easily. Lyanna shifts, pain flashing through her, but she clutches the child tighter. Then, I will make them. I will go to King's Landing. I will stand before this great council they whisper of, and speak myself. Robert will not believe a raven. He might believe me. You are weak, Ned protests. The maester will say I should rest. She cuts him off with a sharp, familiar look. If I stay here, Robert will call me dead in all but name and hunt my son until the end of his days. If I ride, I might die on the road. But if I do nothing, he dies for certain, whether by sword or by silence. Babbo. Ned looks down at the child. at the tiny face that is half Stark, half dragon. The choice is a blade in his hand. Keep the secret and protect his sister in hiding, or carry her and this dangerous truth into the very heart of the storm. Slowly he nods. Then we ride to the capital. Outside, the Kingsguard wait, the sun sinking behind them. The tower's door opens wide, and with it, the path to a council where one girl's living testimony might remake the story of the rebellion, or shatter the realm beyond repair. The dragon pit is not ready for what walks through its gates. By royal command, every great house has been dragged to King's Landing, seated in a broken circle beneath the scorched ribs of the old dome. Stark grey Baratheon-crowned stags, Lannister crimson, Martell suns and spears, Tyrell roses, Arryn falcons all hang together in a riot of colour and old grudges, while the air tastes of dust and ash. Swords ring as guards shift. The breath of the realm gathers in one vast waiting room. Chains clatter. Rhaegar Targaryen is brought forth. The former king shuffles between white-cloaked knights, hair a matted silver tangle, beard clotted, eyes burning with a fever that has nothing to do with health. He laughs at nothing, then jerks against his bonds, shrieking about wildfire beneath their feet, about traitors in every shadow. Spit flies as he promises that all of them will burn, that only he can save them if this continues. The small folk packed high along the stone tiers flinch. Some of the lords do too. On a raised platform where the throne once stood, Rhaegar waits in dark red and black, sword at his hip, crown absent by design. He raises one hand. The room goes silent. "This is not a trial of rebellion," he begins, voice carrying cleanly. "It is a reckoning of a reign." He does not spare himself. He speaks of years of paranoia, of doors barred and voices whispered behind the Iron Throne. He names the day Rickard and Brandon Stark rode south, and how they died screaming in a madman's fire and strangling steel. He lays out the caches of wildfire hidden through the city, the orders given to burn men, women, and children rather than yield a single stone. In truth, he sounds like a man reciting his own failures as much as his father's crimes. Barristan Selmy steps forward, old honor wrapped in white. In a low, steady voice, he confirms it all. The jars of wildfire, the rants, the command to kill them all. Varys follows, soft and precise, describing secret reports, pyromancers, and the day Aerys commanded him to watch the city burn. Even Pycelle, sweating and trembling, admits under Rhaegar's cold gaze that the king had grown unfit, that he begged him to relent and was ignored. Then Rhaegar turns to the rebels. Eddard Stark rises slowly, every movement heavy. He speaks of his father's screams, of his brother's wild, choking gasps, of how the smoke never truly left his lungs. Jon Arryn follows, recalling the order to deliver the heads of his wards, the moment he chose defiance instead. Robert Baratheon cannot stay seated. He surges to his feet, voice raw as he roars about Elya's supposed torment, about Lyanna's abduction, about the blood he spilled at the Trident to avenge them both. The doors open. Lyanna Stark steps into the light, pale but standing, wrapped in grey and Targaryen red. For a heartbeat, the room goes silent again, as if the city itself forgets to breathe. She does not look at Robert first. She looks at Rhaegar, then at the swaddled child in Ashara Dane's arms behind him. Her voice is thin but unshaking as she says she ran willingly, that there was no abduction, that she wed Rhaegar before a heart tree and a septon, that their son is no bastard. She names him, and with that name she strikes at the very heart of the war's story. Murmurs crash like waves. Robert staggers as if struck by a sword. Lords who bled for a stolen maiden stare at her in open confusion, some in fury, some in dawning shame. If this continues, half the realm will have to admit they fought for a lie, or at least for a truth twisted beyond recognition. When the uproar finally ebbs, the lords vote. Some demand death. Others, mindful of dragons yet unborn and the blood already spilled, argue that this does not need to end in blood. The verdict comes down like an executioner's blade. Aerys is declared unfit, stripped of crown and style, to be carried to a remote stone holdfast under heavy guard, never to command again. Rhaegar is named king in fact, but the great lords bind him with one iron condition. Before the realm, and soon, he must settle the matter of succession and Lyanna Stark's place at his side. Only when that is done will Westeros decide whether to follow his banner or test this new king by the sword. Rhaegar does not retreat to think in peace. The demand comes that same night. The small council chamber is crowded, hot, the air thick with breath and sweat and fear as the great lords press in to see what this new king will do. Ned Stark stands stiff at the far end, Lyanna seated beside him, her face pale but unbowed. Oberyn Martell lounges like a coiled viper near the door, while Tywin Lannister and Mace Tyrell wait in silent calculation. When Rhaegar enters, the room goes silent. He is already wed. Everyone knows it. Elia Martell of Dorne is his queen, and her children, Aegon and Rhaenys, are the realm's future. But in truth, another truth has been hidden in stone and snow. In the Godswood at Harrenhal, beneath Weirwood and Star, he took Lyanna Stark to wife under Valyrian rights, and from that union came a boy whose very breath threatens to strike the line of succession like a sword. Rhaegar lays it out slowly, each word feeling like a confession. A second marriage, legal in the eyes of old Valyria, blasphemy in the eyes of Westeros. A child born of both ice and fire, whose name he dares not speak yet, whose claim could set brother against brother before he can even walk. The factions form at once. Oberyn's eyes flash as he speaks for Dorne. Elia is the only true queen, her son the only true prince. Any slight to her is an insult paid in blood. Behind him, Dornish knights rest their hands on sword hilts. Not quite threatening, not quite at ease. At the other side, the north and riverlands harden. Brandon Stark is dead, Rickard Stark burned, their banners soaked in the blood of a war born from a supposed abduction. For Lyanna to be named anything less than lawful wife is to admit they bled for a lie. If this continues, Ned thinks, the realm will shatter again. The Reach and the Westerlands watch. Tywin's gold-cold eyes measure futures, a Dornish alliance, a northern one, or a path where Lannister blood weds Targaryen yet. Mace Tyrell waits for whichever way the wind will blow his banners the highest. Rhaegar considers the roads before him. Anolia and Dorne may rise. Elevate Lyanna as equal consort, and half the realm will whisper of Targaryen lust and madness. Keep Aegon as heir, yet legitimize the younger boy as a Targaryen prince, and he risks raising a rival dragon under his own roof. Then the crown of thorns tightens. Elia stands, frail but proud, her voice steady as she asks if she is to be set aside like cast-off armor. Lyanna refuses the shadows, saying she will not be a whore in a tower for any king, prophecy or no. Between them, Rhaegar sees his dream of the Song of Ice and Fire, a child to unite their blood, turning to ash. At last, he speaks the decree. Elia remains queen. Aegon is named crown prince before all, yet the boy of Lyanna's womb will be publicly acknowledged as a true Targaryen, granted a princely title, lands, and a place at court. This does not need to end in blood, Rhaegar says, voice low, almost pleading. But as Oberyn's smile goes thin, as Ned's jaw clenches, as Tywin's eyes narrow with sudden, sharp interest, it is clear this compromise satisfies no one. And somewhere in the back of the hall, a quiet lord of middling rank is already wondering which prince he will back when the dragons finally turn on each other. Robert Baratheon rides into the city he meant to burn. He does not come in chains. He comes in mail, in mud and dried blood. Hammer at his back, the stag banners of the Stormlands rolling behind him like a storm that refuses to break. Under safe conduct, they call it. In truth, every knight and his escort knows that if this continues past words, there is not enough parchment in the realm to save them. The great doors of the throne room groan open. Robert strides in, boots striking the stone, cloak torn, eyes bright with a fury that has not cooled since the Trident. Around him drift Stormland lords and hard-faced Crownlanders who bled for him, who tasted the edge of victory and do not mean to see it traded away for a new dragon's promise. Ahead, on the steps below the Iron Throne, Rhaegar waits. No crown yet, only black and red, sword at his hip, silver hair tied back, face pale but steady. The room goes silent as Robert stops halfway up the hall and stares at the man he once killed. Where is she? Robert's voice carries, rough, cutting through the silent air. Where is Lyanna? Rhaegar's answer is measured. Safe, alive, and free to choose her own fate. He draws a slow breath, the muscle in his jaw twitching. Robert, this does not need to end in blood. Your valor is known. Your claim to Storm's End is unquestioned. Lay down your war, and you will have lands, gold, a seat on my council. I will answer, before gods and men, for the pain my choices caused. Robert laughs once, harsh. Your counsel. I did not cross half the realm and bury half my friends to sit at your table like some tame lordling. You will give me Lyanna, and you will abdicate, or I will finish what I began at the Trident. His hand twitches towards the hammer. Men on both sides shift, fingers brushing sword hilts. Then the pattern breaks. Lyanna Stark steps out from behind the Targaryen guards, dark hair loose, grey eyes sharp and very awake. She moves slowly, but every strike of her heel on stone is a blow to Robert's chest. She comes to stand between them. Robert. Her voice is low, but the room hears it. The room goes silent again. I am not your prize. I chose him. She does not look away as the words land. I will not marry you. I was never stolen. If you love me, you will stop this. You will not build a throne on a lie. The blow is clean. No sword could cut deeper. Robert sways as if she had struck him. He cannot shout her down. He cannot strike her. He cannot kill Rhaegar here, before half the realm, without becoming the monster he swore he was fighting. Yet how can he bend the knee to the man who took the life he thought was his? For a heartbeat he sees it all. Ned's quiet disappointment, Jon Arryn's careful counsel, the graves left behind from Summerhall to the Trident. If he kneels, does every one of those deaths turn to ash? Rhaegar speaks again, softer. Keep Storm's End. Sit my counsel as Lord of the Stormlands. Take your men home. Let the North and Dawn and the Reach see you as a pillar of this peace, not its enemy. Robert's breath rasps loud in his ears. He looks at Lyanna one last time and finds no rescue there, only resolve and grief. Slowly he shakes his head. I will not kneel. The words fall like a final hammer blow. But I will withdraw my claim. My lords will quit the field. Storm's End stands under my house, untouched. You give me that, and I'll leave your damned city to you, buttonized. Rhaegar inclines his head, accepting the wound he cannot see but feels all the same. Robert turns his back on the throne, on the king, on the woman he once dreamed of, and walks out. Each step away from Lyanna is a fresh tear in something that will never quite mend. Behind him, the new order of Westeros settles like dust after battle, and already, in the shadows of the hall, other eyes are measuring how long this fragile peace can last. The dust settles, but the realm does not. On the maps unfurled in the Red Keep's council room, the Seven Kingdoms look the same. The colors have not changed, the sigils still glare from painted shields, yet every lord in that room feels the ground has shifted under their boots. In truth, the first to sense it are the Starks. The North gains a king's favor and a prince of its own blood. Jon, dark-haired and quiet-eyed, is the living bridge between Winterfell's snows and the dragon banners over King's Landing. Rhaegar sends grain north in harsh winters, lowers tariffs on northern timber, and makes a point of honoring Ned Stark before the court. But the price is carved into Ned's face every time he looks south. Lyanna is alive, yet gone, her breath tied to the heat of the capital, her fate chained to a man the North once swore to kill. For the Baratheons, Storm's End still stands, its banners whipping in the sea wind, yet the storm has passed them by. Robert keeps his lands, his sword, his pride, but not his chance at a crown. Rhaegar names him Lord Paramount of the Stormlands and war hero before the court, a salve on a wound that will never quite close. Stannis watches from the shadows of the room, counting slights while Renly smiles too easily at this new order that pushed his brother aside at the last strike. The Lannisters, denied their sack, still find a way to win. Tywin arrives to a city not burning, to a king not begging, and must sheathe the sword he meant for Aerys. Rhaegar offers him the office of hand instead, binding Casterly Rock to the throne with gold instead of blood. No dead children, no wildfire in the streets, yet the room goes silent when Tywin's pale eyes meet Rhaegar's, both men measuring how long this peace can truly last. In dawn, the sun burns hotter. Elia lives, but her place is smaller now, her husband's heart pledged openly to another. Dawn grumbles, proud and slow to forgive humiliation. They are tied to the Iron Throne by Elia's children and by Lyanna's son, yet every raven from Sunspear reads like a warning. If this continues, the spears of Dawn may yet remember their edge. Rhaegar moves carefully. Pycelle is dismissed, sent shuffling into quiet disgrace, replaced by a more neutral Grand Maester who answers to the realm, not to Lannister gold. The king reins in the faith with soft hands and sharp words, reminding Septons that prophecy is not policy, that this does not need to end in blood. Secret orders go out to the Alchemists' Guild, and slowly, cask by cask, the wildfire buried under the city vanishes into controlled furnaces. Among the small folk, whispers twist like smoke. They remember the prince who sang in the streets, harp in hand, and now see a king who walks the markets with only a single knight at his back, eyes distant but kind. Yet in the taverns they murmur of dragons in the east, of a promised prince, of strange cold omens from the far north. The Reach watches all of it, bright and calculating. Tyrell eyes fixed on which bed their flowers should grow in next, which marriage might tilt the realm. On the surface, Westeros is calmer than under Aerys, far saner than the chaos that once crowned Joffrey. But beneath that polished map lie fault lines, Dawn's wounded pride, northern vigilance over Lyanna and Jon, Reach ambition, Lannister patience, Baratheon resentment. There are more heirs now, more claims, more reasons for a future sword to be drawn. The peace holds, for the moment, thin as glass over deep, dark water, waiting for the first true crack. Peace might hold at court, but in Rhaegar's mind it never truly begins. While lords argue over tariffs and titles, the king keeps circling back to a single thought that has stalked him since boyhood, the prince that was promised. He once thought it was himself. A solemn boy with a harp instead of a sword, reading of Azor Ahai until the pages blurred before his eyes, convinced that his own breath, his own blood, would be the key to the realm's salvation. Then Aegon was born under a storm, and a comet's faint trace, and Rhaegar shifted the weight of destiny onto that infant's shoulders, whispering of a song of ice and fire over a cradle that could not answer. Now Lyanna lives. Jon lives, and for the first time the words feel painfully, almost cruelly, literal. Ice. Stark. Fire. Targaryen. A child who is both. If this continues, if the old visions were true and not some fever of Valyrian pride, then the game in King's Landing is nothing but a distraction from the only war that matters. So his rule bends toward the cold. Quietly, methodically, he pours gold and grain into the Night's Watch, restoring ruined castles along the wall, sending veteran knights north where others would send criminals. Maesters are dispatched to Winterfell and Eastwatch, ordered to dig through damp, half-rotted records of the Long Night, while courtiers in the capital puzzle over why their king cares more for dead stories than for Reach harvests. Rhaegar has dragonglass mined from Dragonstone's black cliffs, the shards cratered and shipped north under cover of fortifications, the pattern strange but not bloody enough for anyone to challenge. In truth, he is building a sword that no one else can see. His children become pieces on that same unseen board. Aegon is the obvious one, the polished heir in the Red Keep, drilled in law and ledgers, forced to sit through small council sessions until his eyes sting and his breath comes slow with boredom. Taught how to keep a room from ever going silent in fear the way it did under Aerys. Jon, though, is different. Jon is sent back and forth, south to learn courtesy and the weight of crowns, north to learn the Stark words and what it means to stand in snow with a bare blade and no songs to comfort you. Elia watches Aegon's lessons harden, hears Rhaegar speak of prophecy in half-finished phrases, and fears that her son's primacy is balanced on omens instead of law. Lyanna sees Jon taken from her side again and again, shaped by distant maesters and stern knights, and feels as if her boy is being forged into a weapon of prophecy rather than allowed to be a person. The Faith, hearing whispers of Valyrian scrolls and strange rites at Dragonstone, grows uneasy with a king who seems to kneel more readily to the ghosts of his ancestors than to the Seven. On one northern visit, long after the feast's end and the hall lies silent, Rhaegar walks the crypts of Winterfell with Jon at his side. Torches gutter. Stone kings and wardens loom. The air is so cold, each breath feels like a small wound. Rhaegar's hand rests slowly on the shoulder of some forgotten Stark statue as he speaks, voice low, of a night that will not end, of dead things that hate the living, of a song that must be sung when all other music fails. Jon listens, eyes wide, fingers brushing the rough stone of a sword gripped by a long-dead lord, and understands only this: he was born for something that reaches far beyond any throne. And the king, alone in that deep dark room, is already planning how to use him. Rhaegar leaves the crypts with a plan for the living. But in truth, the world that plan creates is one where certain fires never catch. There is no sack of King's Landing. No wildfire caches bursting beneath screaming streets, no Lannister soldiers kicking indoors while smoke and blood choke the air. Elia Martell walks the halls with her children at her side, wary but alive, her eyes sharper now that she has seen how close the realm came to tearing itself apart. Rhaegar's quiet decree sends Tywin Lannister back to the Rock with honors, but no regency, no chance to drench the capital in treacherous glory. Without that sack, there is no butchered princess on the floor of Maegor's holdfast, no prince dashed against a wall. And because there is no usurper, no Baratheon hammer on the gates, there is no desperate flight in the night for Viserys and a newborn Daenerys, no salt-stained crossing as penniless exiles with a price on their heads. The room where she is born is warm, guarded, heavy with the breath of midwives instead of the crash of a city falling. Daenerys grows up not as the last dragon, but as the least important one. A minor Targaryen princess on Dragonstone or in a sunlit wing of the Red Keep, she trails behind Aegon and Jon at feasts, her handmaids whispering about which lord will win her hand. Perhaps a Tyrell heir binding the reach to the crown with roses and gold. Perhaps a Lannister cousin, if Rhaegar decides the West must be tied by marriage rather than by sword. She learns the steps of the dance, not the weight of a Khalasar's eyes. And far to the east, 3 stone eggs sit on a velvet cushion in some magister's vault, or as a curiosity in a Pentoshi manse, never crossing the narrow sea as a desperate wedding gift for a frightened girl. There is no Dothraki cowl with a braid down his back, no funeral pyre built on a black night, no Stormborn queen walking through flame while the room goes silent in awe and fear. Stone remains stone. The specific alchemy of death, blood, and need is never ignited, and the dragons do not wake. Essos barely notices the difference at first. Slaver's Bay remains what it has always been, chains clinking in the dark, ships heavy with flesh, rich men counting coin. There is no mother of dragons to burn Astapor's masters where they stand. No siege of Meereen, no freedmen carving new names into the red bricks. The Dothraki are not broken against unsullied ranks under a foreign sky. They still ride, still raid, still circle the free cities like wolves. Without a living dragon queen, the red priests argue among themselves. Some still peer west, murmuring of a promised prince in the halls of a strange, cold castle. But there is no blazing mother with 3 living symbols of Arhelor to focus their fervor. Their fires are scattered, their visions clouded. So Westeros under Rhaegar is calmer, more rational, better armed with dragonglass and watchful knights on the wall. Yet it may also be a world without living dragons, without a queen who learned to break chains before she learned to rule, without the overwhelming fire that once met the dead on a frozen field. If this continues, when the long night finally falls, the realm will stand together as one. But will unity and cold steel be enough when no wings darken the sky? The answer begins, as it always does, with a single death Rhaegar cannot prevent. It begins with a body. Not a lord, not a king, but a black-clad ranger laid out on a table in Winterfell's coldest room, blue eyes staring at nothing, until they do not. When the corpse lurches, when the dead fingers claw for a sword, when steel and fire are needed just to make it stop moving, the room goes silent in a way no feast song ever could. Word rides south more slowly than ravens, carried by Ned Stark's hand and Maester Luwin's careful script. Reports of vanished rangers, of wildlings speaking in shaking breaths about white shadows and ice-cold swords, of storms that should not be, reach King's Landing the way all northern tidings do. Half believed, half dismissed. Under Robert, they would have been tossed aside with a snort about snarks and grumpkins. But there is no Robert on this throne. Rhaegar listens. In truth, he has been listening for years, hunting omens in every winter wind. Each new letter is laid before him like another verse in the song of ice and fire he once whispered to Lyanna in a tower room. His eyes linger on the details most would ignore. Blue eyes, no blood, blades that shatter on contact. He does not laugh. He does not delay. Gold moves first. The Night's Watch, half-starved and half-forgotten in Robert's time, finds its coffers quietly filled. Old keeps along the wall, left silent and empty for generations, see fresh fires lit as condemned men are given a choice, lose a hand or take the black with both hands, still able to hold a sword. Rhaegar sends armor, grain, fletchers, smiths. He orders dragonglass, hauled from Dragonstone's forgotten caves until black glass blades fill crates in Castle Black's armory. Then he considers something no king has done in living memory. This does not need to end in blood, he tells his council when they balk at the thought. A prince at the wall? A royal son among exiles and thieves? The room goes silent again, but for different reasons. Yet Rhaegar's mind is already at the edge of the world, standing atop the wall with the wind in his hair, seeing not shame but symbol. Jon, the boy of 2 names and 2 worlds, ice and fire bound in one body. As royal envoy, as pledge and warning both, he could stand beside the Lord Commander and make every southern lord understand that this is not a northern fancy. If this continues, Rhaegar believes, only a united realm will stand any chance when the dead begin to march. Here the pattern breaks. There are no dragons hatching in a red waste. No queen learning to rule by breaking chains. Without Daenerys' long, burning pilgrimage through Essos, there is no unsullied phalanx, no Dothraki screamers riding for the dawn, no red priests calling fire from the sky. Melisandre's visions might still find Stannis, but with no desperate king to gamble everything on her flames, her power never gathers an army. The living are better warned, better armed, more tightly bound under one thoughtful king. Yet their greatest weapon never wakes. So the question hangs over every snowy field and every black stone of the wall. Does Rhaegar's early preparation and Jon's hidden royal blood balance the loss of Dragonfire and Daenerys' hard-won crusade? Or has the realm merely traded one storm of war for a slower, colder doom it still cannot truly imagine? Yet while the cold gathers far to the north, another storm grows in warm halls and torchlit galleries. Aegon grows first beneath the dragon pit's shadow, a prince of pageants and courts. He rides at tourneys before he can truly hold a sword, his silver-gold hair catching the sun as the small folk roar. He is the unquestioned heir, the boy every southern lord swears to, the child Rhaegar places at his right hand when the court kneels. He smiles easily, speaks boldly, carries himself as if the Iron Throne already knows the weight of his steps. Jon grows differently. He moves more slowly through winter courtyards and Godswood snow, a quiet shadow at Robb Stark's side, a boy with Stark eyes and Targaryen dreams he barely understands. When he comes south as a young man, the rune goes silent, not because he shines, but because he watches. He listens. He speaks only when pressed, and when he does, even hardened knights fall silent at the edge of that low, careful voice. In truth, the realm begins to divide long before either prince raises a banner. The Reach, the Stormlands, the gilded houses of the Crownlands look at Aegon and see safety, precedent, the proper king. They whisper that the dragon line must remain clear, that Lyanna's son, however honored, came second. But in the north and along the river fords, in damp halls that remember the Trident's blood, men murmur another story. A dragon with Stark blood, a prince who knows snow as well as silk. If winter truly comes, is it not Jon who might stand between them and the dark? Small rivalries spark like flint against steel. At a great tourney in King's Landing, Aegon rides in bright enamel and rubies, smashing tilt after tilt, lance striking shields with ringing force while the crowd chants his name. Jon enters late in plain grey and black, his sword arm steady, his breath misting in the cool evening air. When they meet in the final, Aegon's charge is a thunderclap, Jon's defense a quiet, perfect angle, both are unhorsed in a tangle of splintered wood. The stands erupt. No clear victor, only questions. In council it is worse. Aegon urges bold strikes against raiders, talks of glory and banners, wanting the realm to feel his strength. Jon counsels patience. Scouts. Cold numbers. If this continues, the factions behind them will draw their own swords long before the brothers do. Rhaegar feels it first, the way a man hears a distant drumbeat under music. Lines at the corners of his eyes deepen as he watches his sons argue over maps and omens. He walks the halls at night, thinking of old scrolls and that promised prince, wondering if the prophecy was never about one child but two. He tries to weave peace into law, Aegon to rule from King's Landing, Jon to hold the north and the wall with powers no warden has ever claimed, perhaps even a formal sharing of rule if the long night truly falls. This does not need to end in blood, he tells them in a quiet solar. A father, not a king. But history in Westeros is merciless. Every time the Targaryen line blurs, dragons rise against dragons, brothers against sisters, until only ash is left. Here, there may be no dragons to burn the sky, yet the pattern is the same. If the line of succession remains clouded, if lords keep choosing sides in private rooms, then a new dance waits. One fought with wolves and dragons, with winter winds howling over fields already sown, with the seeds of civil war. Nor was mercy at the Trident a blessing for Westeros, or the quiet beginning of another kind of doom. In canon, Robert's hammer ends the question. A usurper king takes the Iron Throne, the Targaryen line is shattered, and the realm staggers forward on broken legs until Joffrey's madness tears it open again. Here, Robert stays his hand. The river runs just as red, but the prince lives. The realm trades a brute with a crown for a thoughtful, haunted king, who speaks softly of prophecy and peace, yet leaves behind a web of tensions that never quite snap, never quite heal. From the Stark perspective, it feels, at first, like a victory. Ned's sword is never raised against the last Targaryen heir. His honor, so fragile in King's Landing, stays more intact. Lyanna lives, her eyes opening in a bed that does not stink of blood and fever, but of maesters' herbs and rain on stone. Yet the room goes silent around Winterfell's hearth when Robert's name is spoken. The rift between wolf and stag never closes. Robert cannot forgive the woman who chose his rival. Lyanna cannot forgive the man who would have killed her son. The North gains influence at court, a Stark child raised partly in the South as both hostage and bridge, learning the ways of knights and singers while remembering the feel of snow under bare feet. But that influence has a cost. The North's proud isolation slowly erodes. Southern games seep into northern halls. If this continues, the next generation of Starks will think in terms of councils and factions, not just honor and oaths. For the Lannisters, the mercy at the Trident cleans one stain only to deepen others. Tywin never orders the murder of royal children, never sees their blood on the stones of the Red Keep. In truth, that spares him the title of Butcher. Yet he still maneuvers, still watches with cold eyes as Rhaegar builds a new order that does not center Casterly Rock. His swords remain sharp, his gold ready to tip any scale. The game survives, it just plays out in more silent corridors. Dawn suffers a different wound. Elia lives, her children live, but their mother's pride is scarred. Rhaegar's open union with Lyanna forces the Martells to swallow a bitter taste. There is no sack to avenge, no dead princess to turn into a banner of righteous fury. Their appetite for open revenge is dulled, yet their memory is long. A king who must balance Martell pride against Stark devotion walks a line as thin as a drawn blade. And over all of this hangs the colder question. Is a more stable, dragonless Westeros under Rhaegar better prepared for the White Walkers than the chaotic, dragon-rich world of canon? There are no dragons to burn the dead, but there is, perhaps, a realm less shattered, a night's watch less starved, a king who listens when old stories speak of blue eyes in the dark. Or has Westeros traded one set of cataclysms, Robb's war, Dany's fire, for a slow-burn catastrophe where unity frays just as the dead begin to march? Because it all comes back to that moment at the Trident. When Robert lowered his hammer and Ned spoke of law over vengeance, they believed they were ending the Mad King's legacy without birthing a new monster. "This does not need to end in blood," Ned had said, and for a time it did not. But mercy has its own price. Did they save the realm from a tyrant's shadow, or doom it to face the long night with a king bound by compromise, a prophecy half understood, and a realm that will only realize what it's risked when the first white sword strikes in the snow? And when that sword falls, whose side will Rhaegar Targaryen truly stand on? The living, or the dream he died and lived for? Canon and this Rhaegar Lives world sit like two mirrors facing each other, the same faces reflected back with different scars. In one, Robert stands as king, crown heavy, belly growing, eyes dulled by wine and regret. In the other, he is only Lord of Storm's End, a bitter war hero, pacing his halls with a sword that never struck its dragon prince cleanly enough to win. Ned Stark feels that split more than anyone. In canon, he kneels to a usurper, hand to a man he loves but cannot follow, slowly watching honor rot under the weight of lies about bastards and bloodlines. Here he bends the knee to a dragon king he helped spare, not as a servant but as a northern power broker, the quiet hand that insists this does not need to end in blood every time Rhaegar's council leans toward fire. Daenerys is the sharpest reversal. In truth, the cannon girl forged in exile becomes a liberator, mother of dragons, breaker of chains, her breath steaming in the cold as she looks beyond the narrow sea, toward a throne built on her family's bones. In this timeline, she grows as a sidelined princess in a carefully managed court, a Targaryen with no dragons, her power traded away in marriages and treaties while older men argue about prophecy. The same fire, but trapped behind silk and ceremony. And Jon. In the books we know, he is the bastard in black, a silent watcher on a failing wall, the hidden song of ice and fire who only learns what he is when the dead are already walking. Ere once Lyanna's truth drags itself into the light, he becomes a living bridge, a royal child whose very name is a treaty between Stark and Targaryen. Yet the cost of that compromise is steep. A boy raised to hold the realm together may never be allowed to strike first when the darkness comes. Canon's spine is made of lies, and the way they crush honorable men. Ned's silence about Jon, Robert's lie of victory that births Joffrey, and, if this continues, the War of the Five Kings. Every bad king pulls another stone from the tower until it falls. In the Rhaegar Lives path, the tower does not fall, it leans. The themes shift to burden and balance, To a prince who believes in a prophecy yet refuses to break the realm outright to meet it. Violence changes shape as well. Robert's rebellion in canon ends in sack and slaughter. Tywin's men kicking down doors while the room goes silent around Elia and her children. Here, Rhaegar's survival forces a negotiated peace. Fewer bodies in the streets, more ghosts at the council table. The blood is slower, more personal. Assassinations, quiet exiles, marriages used as chains instead of swords. Peace, but edged. So did Robert truly win? If his hammer blow at the Trident forged Joffrey, Cersei's regency, and the chaos that followed? Or does Rhaegar's survival only twist the knife differently, averting one war to risk a subtler doom where a dragonless realm doubts the dead until the first white sword strikes in the snow? That is the choice this comparison leaves you with, a brutal dragon-lit chaos that burns itself awake in time to face the long night, or a measured, ordered Westeros that may never fully believe until the cold is already in its lungs. Which world would you rather stand in when the wall finally cracks? So in that crack between fire and ice, we have to choose a crown. We have walked slowly from the Trident where Rhaegar rises from the red water instead of sinking beneath it, armor-dented, ribs screaming but alive, through the long, suffocating corridors of King's Landing where a great council cages Aerys like a mad beast behind silken ceremony, and into a realm held together by a prince who becomes king in all but name. A realm where Lyanna breathes, Elia lives to watch her children grow, Jon is raised in half-shadow between Stark honor and Targaryen destiny, and Aegon stands at the center of every quiet argument about the future. In truth, this is a fragile balance. A listening king obsessed with prophecy and peace holds court while the room seethes with unspoken threats. Martell pride, Stark caution, Baratheon resentment, Lannister calculation. The sword stays sheathed, but every shared glance is a possible strike. The room goes silent whenever Rhaegar's eyes linger too long on Jon or Aegon, whenever Lyanna and Elia stand on opposite sides of the hall with their children and their unspoken claims. We have traded one kind of blood for another. Fewer immediate atrocities, no sack of King's Landing, no butchered babes in crimson cloaks, no Tower of Joy turned tomb. More Targaryens and Starks live, their breath misting in the same cold air. But there is no Daenerys the Dragon Queen, no dragon eggs waking in a pyre, no living flame to answer the dead. Instead of a storm of fire that burns the rot out quickly, we get a slow burn succession crisis, a tangle of marriages and titles that tightens year after year until it may only come loose when a sword finally answers it. So who should rule in this world you have just watched unfold? Rhaegar, the king who hears prophecy in every whisper. Aegon, the polished heir raised for the throne from his first breath. Jon, the quiet storm of ice and fire once his parentage is dragged into the light. Or do you believe the story bends back toward Daenerys somehow? Or even to a bitter, older Robert who staggers back into the game when the next generation stumbles? If this continues without dragons but with a king who listens, is Westeros actually safer, or only slower to bleed? This does not need to end in blood, in your version. Tell me which path of Rhaegar's survival you find most convincing. His clear victory at the Trident, his survival in defeat and return as a humbled regent, or a late-game coup where he finally takes the sword from his father's shaking hand. How would you untie the knot of Lyanna, Elia, Jon, and Aegon? Do you legitimize, annul, remarry, or simply accept that one day the silence will break and the first claim will be tested in steel? Use the comments as your council chamber. Argue, rewrite, strike down my choices, and raise your own banners. And if you want to see more timelines shattered, what if Tywin never joined Robert's rebellion? What if Stannis proved Joffrey's bastardy before Ned fell? Then like the video, subscribe and ring the bell so you're in the room the next time we redraw the map of Westeros.